Most Americans are very familiar with the fact that in July of 1776, we declared our independence from Great Britain with the Declaration of Independence. And they're familiar with that document and the fact that it laid out some really important ideas about the basis of our government and what we believed in. And also that, we had some pretty specific problems with the British. And here they were for the whole world to see. So most people are familiar with the Declaration of Independence. What they don't always think about or wonder about is, okay, so we were independent. Well, what was our government like? What they don't realize is that we went on without a government for a while. And when we finally did get one, it was under a document called the Articles of Confederation. Now, this is not the same as our current Constitution. The Articles, in fact, were kind of an important stepping stone for us as we tried to figure out how to take these ideas that we had in the Declaration of Independence and put them into work in a way that would really work for the American people. So by 1781, or in the midst of the war with Great Britain for our independence, the colonies agreed to the Articles of Confederation. And this was a body like a constitution. It was a document that set forth these ideas of how we should govern things. There were some successes we had under the Articles. Under the Articles, the colonies were able to negotiate their peace treaty with Great Britain and end the American Revolution. They adopted the Northwest Ordinance, which allowed us to expand into what was then the Northwest, now the states of like Ohio and Michigan and places like that. It also was under the Articles, when we figured out the Articles weren't working, the Articles actually allowed us to set up the convention that would bring us our new Constitution. So the Articles weren't all bad. There were some successful things that happened under them. Unfortunately, though, they also had several really serious drawbacks, which is what drove us towards the Constitution that we're working with now. It was very hard to get anything done under the Articles of Confederation. You had to have a strong majority of states to approve almost anything that was going to be done by the federal government. So a small group of minority states could block the will of the larger group of states. And as far as amending it or changing the system of ruling things, you had to have all 13 states agree to the amendment in order to change the Articles. So one state all by itself, even if the other 12 all agreed on something that they thought was a really good way to change the Articles of Confederation, one state by itself could block that from happening. And that became very difficult because the Articles had some pretty serious flaws. They did not really give the Congress the power to tax. They did not give the Congress the power to regulate commerce. They did not really give Congress the power to handle the army in the way that it needed to. And so there was no real way for them to tell the states, hey, you have to meet your obligations. You have to come up with this money to help pay for the war, or you need to send us this many troops, or you need to support us in this other way. It basically left the federal government or the national government in a very weak state, low on funds, low on forces to fight the British with, and really not in a place where they were ready to take quick and decisive action. So the Articles had their problems. And as the 1780s went on, those became especially clear in events like Shays' Rebellion in 1786, where a group of colonists who had fought for independence out of the colony of Massachusetts, they were hungry, they were having trouble making money and feeding their families, and a lot of them were veterans who'd fought in the war and still hadn't been paid for their service. Under the leadership of a captain named Daniel Shays, they had an uprising in western Massachusetts that was very difficult for the government to deal with because, again, under the Articles of Confederation, the government was very slow to respond. It was hard for them to handle these things. So that clearly pointed out the need for a new constitution, a constitution that had more power in the federal government, that started to take some of these powers away from the states that had remained there under the Articles of Confederation. So what we'll see next then is that convention that gives us the Constitution that helps us resolve some of these difficulties and move forward as a successful nation.